you completed the wave diffraction playlist. So there are a few things to go over, a few notes you have to write. So just like class, except actually write them. So there are a dozen notes. I know there was a lot of questions on this one. So a dozen notes to go through. Here they are. These are basically the major results and the theme of all the videos you just watched. Hopefully you can keep these, at least in part, pieced in your head for your future life. So let's go. First one here is just an intro. We reviewed some. We should do a little vote as to whether this individual here needs a haircut. All right. So the next video we got into was, there it is, red versus violet light. And what we found here, actually from our first one, here's note number one. Note number one. If something can transmit, absorb, reflect, refract, and diffract, then that something is a wave. Note 1. If something can transmit, absorb, reflect, refract, and diffract, then that something is a wave. So now we're getting into this red versus violet. You can actually get to note 2, which you should have found from the video. Note 2. Red light diffracts more than violet light. Both colors are waves. Note 2. Red light diffracts more than violet light. Both colors are waves. Okay, we got into the TV remotes. You were supposed to send a picture. If you did not yet send a picture, well, do it. The picture showed the bulb, and we needed the selfie view to pull that off. All right, and so then we actually brought our TV outside, and we talked about a couple of things here. So note 3, most TV remotes use infrared light. Note 3, most TV remotes use infrared light. By the way, you're allowed to write capital I, capital R for infrared. It's a common acronym for infrared. Actually, no, that's an initialism. Infrared. What we found when we went outside is we were able to actually bounce that infrared off the reflective phone, and also we were pointing a bit off, and still it worked. So note 4, infrared reflects and diffracts. Infrared is a wave. Note 4, infrared reflects and diffracts. Infrared is a wave. All right. Later on in this video, we actually had a little car come in the scene. Let's see, where was it? There was our little car came on the scene. So when the car came on the scene, we actually discovered this was an RC, what people think sometimes is remote control. No, it's actually radio control. So, note 5, RC toy remotes use radio. Note 5, RC toy remotes use radio. Now I know that sounds a little awkward. You'd probably normally say radio waves, it's just built into it. But I didn't want to make the assumption here. It's actually fair to call radio waves, or add the word waves, because we see that it diffracts. And that brings us actually then to note 6. Note 6, radio diffracts, and radio is a wave. Radio, note 6, radio diffracts, radio is a wave. The other thing we noticed here is the user was able to hide behind the fence in order to operate this car, out of sight. The remote was able to point off, but still the signal would reach the TV. Here we go. But we found when shooting the laser really had to aim more or less exactly, not exactly, but very close to the target it was trying to hit. So now we have a comparison. Note 7. Radio diffracts more than infrared, which diffracts more than a green laser. Note 7. Radio diffracts more than infrared, which diffracts more than a green laser. And we got into a couple of car videos. We're driving into the garage. There we go. And so what we found here is actually that we had different types of radio waves. So note 8, there are different types of radio waves, just like there are different colors of visible light. Note 8, there are different types of radio waves, just like there are different colors of visible light. Now, after we talked about the different types here, the AM, the FM, the XM, we actually did a comparison. You saw the car drive in, and you saw them cut off at different points. So that brings us to our comparative note. Note 9. AM diffracts more than FM, which diffracts more than XM. Note 9. AM diffracts more than FM, which diffracts more than XM. XM, by the way, is any sort of satellite radio. Also add this sentence to your note 9. Forgot to mention it in the video, but it is worth recognizing. So you're going to add this note right here. Cell phones are in between FM and XM. Cell phones are in between FM and XM. That's it for that note. Actually, cell phones are very close to satellite radio in frequency. On average, they're a little lower, but they're pretty similar. And that's actually the reason you need so many cell phone towers. Ask your parents about it. You're a bit young. Cell phone service is pretty good now. Once upon a time, there were fewer cell phone towers, and that's because the cell phone signals, actually you dropped many calls. And what does that mean? Well, ask your parents about that too. You would be walking or driving and on a phone call, and this is really pre-texting, and on a phone call, and then the call would often drop, meaning you would lose the call. And that's because cell phone signals do not diffract well. They do not get around obstacles well. And the way to get around that is actually to build more cell phone towers. So every time a road bends or there's a hill or you're in a building or you're going a tunnel, you need some sort of antenna or tower with antennas in order to connect. All right. Note 10. So we did a couple more of those radio. We went upstate. We did the highway overpass. Then we got into sound a little bit. And so note 10, sound diffracts around barriers, so sound is a wave. Note 10, sound diffracts around barriers, so sound is a wave. And we talked a little bit, we had that other room effect that they use in some EDM music. And that's really just to simulate reality. where when you are not next to the source of the sound, but you're some distance away, there are obstacles in the way, then certain notes make it to you better than others. And so that's the content of note 11. Note 11. Low notes diffract more than high notes, which diffract more than colors. Note 11. Low notes diffract more than high notes, which diffract more than colors. Now, I added that last piece about colors because we talked about that. In your house, you can go and you can shut the door and block out most of the light, but you can't block out the sound. The sound still makes it through. By the way, I made a quick mention in the video that said sound diffracts more than light. Really, I was talking about visible light, colors. Radio waves actually can diffract very well. In fact, they can diffract better than sound. Certain radio waves. All right. So after all this, we need a summary note. If there's one take home from the entire video chain, it would be this. Note 12. Diffraction is the spreading of waves around obstacles. Different types of waves spread differently. Note 12. Diffraction is the spreading of waves around obstacles. Different types of waves spread different amounts. Okay, that's it for the notes. And so what you'll do for the rest of today is actually build a couple of instruments. Enjoy.